This is Bokeh experiment number 2. This is the second one of the lenses I purchased. It's a Pentax SMC 50mm F1.4 prime lens. I've purchased this and gone for this option as well as the main lens, which comes from Panasonic, which is my kit lens of 14 to 42mm. I think you get better quality and wider aperture for less money by looking for other sources of lenses, and this is one of the benefits I found of using a Panasonic GH2. With the use of mounts, you could adapt almost any lens to this camera. So this is an F1.4, which is quite a good lens for this, considering the kit lens come to the maximum aperture of f3.5. I want to be a filmmaker, and I stress this, so I've got a passion. I want to be a filmmaker. So I'm really concentrating on the obstacles that I've got to overcome to become that filmmaker. That's what I'm interested in. What obstacles are preventing me from becoming that filmmaker and creating what's in my imagination? I think of something, but how to produce that accurately and true to my dream is a big challenge, and this is what I'm in here for. My major problem I have with becoming a videographer is the camera. The camera is the one that can take it away from you or help you become a good filmmaker. Limitations of the cameras is the lens. The glass I think is very important. Focal length, aperture, maximum aperture, speed of lens, the camera handling. Does it handle well? Does it feel well in your hand? Does it inspire you to make a good film by not being in the way? Because I consider camera in the way my biggest obstacle. I do not want a camera in the way of me making a film. It's just got to vanish and disappear. Once the camera disappears, I can make the film and just flow. If you've heard of workflow with no obstacles is what I want. I found on this GH2, like I've repeated before, is the sound is awful. The sound is terrible. So what I've done as a filmmaker is turn down the output source of the volume and see what difference that makes. Because I have not connected up my Rode Stereo Video Mic Pro, because I need a 2.5mm adapter to adapt it from the 3.5 to 2.5 adapter for this GH2. That's one of the downfalls of this GH2. Its adapter is not standard, so it can be corrected with no problem with an adapter. So I want to become a filmmaker, and I'm experimenting with bokeh. I love manual focus. I can't stand autofocus. The reason being, autofocus gives me no control of what I'm actually doing. I want to be in control of what I'm doing. I want to feel my filmmaking process and control my filmmaking process. So autofocus is out of the question for me. It's just something I don't like. And learning, I feel I don't like it. If I liked it, I would use it, but not for me. Now I'm going to show you some bokeh experiments with this lens, this f1.4 Pentax 50mm standard lens, which again is doubled on this 2x crop sensor, micro four thirds crop sensor. So we're going to focus on the screen. Now we're going to focus on the pint marking on the glass. You see it? On the pint marking. Another thing with this focusing I find is peaking on the GH2 would have been good, so I may have to go for the GH4. But there are reasons why I will not buy the GH4. The reason why I'm not going to buy a GH4 and move to 4K, because there's no need for me, with my level of experience and my needs, to go for a GH4. I'm barely understanding the GH2, so why should I just fork out and buy a GH4 when I'm learning to become a videographer? I think if I was to go out and buy a GH4, I would have taken a step backwards in becoming a filmmaker. and I've chosen the GH2 as my learning tool to become a filmmaker, and that's what I'm going to stick with until I understand this camera at the back of my head, hack it, get in touch with Nick Driftwood and Vitalik Keslev, hack this camera, get the software, the Adobe Premiere, CS5, CS6 or Sony Vegas, and see what this camera can actually do. Once I've reached the limitations of this camera, where I think is the limitations, and I can improve more, then I'll go for the GH4. I have no doubt the GH4 is better, etc. You've got a higher bit rate out from the box, better slow motion, faster focusing, but like I said, I focus manually and I'm a learner. I'll be ready for the GH4 when I've got more experience. So this is my camera I'm going to stay with, the beloved GH2, which I think is an enormous camera, and I think HD video is still here to stay. The 4K has not left the HD behind. It's improvement in detail, but I believe it's about twice as better, not 4 or 5 times better, twice as better. But you can, with a good software editing, good exposure, create phenomenal images with this camera. I thought by changing the lenses would be one important step, changing the lenses, and I've done that. I've got a Voigtlander f 0.95 and away, a Voigtlander 17.5mm lens. Right, let's go with the bokeh now. This track, by the way, is by Mr. Fingers, Larry Heard. What an artist. Larry Heard, Mr. Fingers. And the track's name is Microgravity. As a pro videographer, the ability to pull focus is extremely important. I'm focused on the straw now. The straw's on the left. Now the boot of the straw on the right. I'll leave it there for a while, and you see that incredible bokeh. One thing I've learned is to master manual focus, master pulling manual focus on the GH2. I can pull focus, as you can see, and that's without a follow focusing kit. Once the follow focusing kit comes in, I will see if that of any benefit. If not, it goes in the bin. I'm only going to put things on this camera, add things to this camera, what are useful in making me a filmmaker and helping me. Who says you can't do bokeh on the GH2? Come on, you Canon boys. Goodbye. Zooms. I've got a message for Sweet Programming. You want to try and get rid of automatic cameras and get a camera which has a manual focusing. This way you can practice pulling focus. Once you can pull focus manually, you have greater control over your subject. So I'm not knocking autofocus, because there's some cases where autofocus may be a valuable tool for some people. But for me, learning the game of videography, manual focusing is so important to be able to pull focus manually. See, before I tried a full focus kit, I wanted to see if I can learn to pull focus manually on the lens by itself, which I can. But I now want to see the advantages of a full focus kit. This way I'll actually be learning why and understanding why a full focus kit is needed. If I just gone and bought a full focus kit and use it, I wouldn't know what benefit I'm getting. So you've got to practice with what you've got, and then when you get the better stuff, you will know what benefits are and learn the restrictions of your equipment. I'm fast learning the restrictions of the DSLR in filmmaking, really fast. I've got my eyes right up to the electronic viewfinder of the GH2, and I prefer to sit back and look at a larger monitor, which I'll purchase, a Lilliput 9.7 inch HD monitor, which once connected, I've got to see again how it goes with the camera handling. How do I feel comfortable handling it? Does it feel good? Got a tripod also coming. You know, what am I going to be like operating with this equipment? Will it get in my way, or will it vanish? I want it to vanish. Get rid of the camera so I can make a film. Control everything without hindrance, without obstacles. Become a filmmaker. That's what I want to do. Don't you see all these guys with gear and equipment? Some people, I see some amateurs in the parks and that, and they got this expensive equipment and they haven't got a clue how to use it and what it's using. In fact, they think the camera's jewelry or something, like gold or silver. But with me, the camera don't exist, but producing the film does. I like watching the films after from great filmmakers. So this is the end and proof of bokeh. Proof of bokeh. Zooms. From here, you start from here and you go the zooms. Right, bye, see you later.